Hello, degenerates, weirdos, and internet strange people, weirdos. Welcome to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And Sumy Oblast, Ukraine gains ground as evident by where Russia is aiming its artillery and rockets and missiles. So it does appear as if Ukraine has actually pushed Russia further back in Sumy Oblast. That said, though, Russia does gain ground elsewhere, so we're going to take a look at that as well. Right, so I do have a bit of a headache, but let's try and do this anyway. Andrew Perpetua hasn't updated in quite a while. Maybe he will update as I'm making this video. This was last updated 20 hours ago. But it is what it is. We can see here from Andrew that Ukraine keeps bombing positions within Tetkino. So we have Syrskis claim that they control 90 square kilometers, but quite clearly parts of Tetkino is still under Russian control. This was really interesting. Ukraine is bombing this bridge and it appeared to be somewhat intact, and they dropped several bombs on it for some reason. I mean, was it really Ukraine? Why would Ukraine blow up this bridge if Ukraine is in control of this part of Tetkino over here, and they're trying to push into the factory area? Why would Ukraine blow up this bridge? Surely that must be Russia doing that, right? So if this bridge was somewhat intact and Ukraine was pushing across it to reach the factory, doesn't that make more sense? It is really strange. I don't understand why Ukraine would be blowing up that bridge. Other than that, not much is changed here. If we take a look at Mayakovsk 73, he has the airstrike east of the factory. He also has further north airstrikes into town here and drones hunting Russians further into Kursk. So Tetkino is still under a lot of pressure, but clearly we still have Russians in place in the center of town. Moving back to Andrew, we can see here Russia launching airstrike at this forest here. They've done so. They've launched rockets, artillery, and airstrikes. This does appear to be a Ukrainian stronghold, judging by the amount of airstrikes and artillery aimed at it. Interesting, we have seen indication that Ukraine has actually pushed across this field and now in this windbreak. I'll show you later. Russia shelling Andriivka, so quite clearly Ukraine is holding it. There are talks of Ukraine pushing into Oleksivka. We're not really seeing any evidence of it, but Russian sources are claiming it. Yablonivka, on the other hand, we have a big push by Ukraine the other day. They pushed up with a couple of tanks, opened fire on Russian positions outside of town. And then we also have some indication that Ukraine has pushed into this forest here, since Russia has launched rocket strikes at the area up here. So quite clearly Ukraine has managed to push through and has established a presence, and Russia is countering that push with rockets. So yeah, here we have this tree line. Windbreak is under Ukrainian control, geolocated over by Ukraine control map. Let's zoom in here. That dot is from the 23rd of June, and Russian 40th Naval Infantry Brigade hit Ukraine position near Kindratkivka. So that is, an indication that Ukraine has pushed across the field and they are in the tree line. We can see the same thing if we move over here. These two dots are the rocket strikes. Russian MLRS shelling on forested area near Yunakivka, Sumy Oblast. And the same thing over here. There we go. So Ukraine has pushed across. Did they survive? Have they established presence? Yes, admittedly a bit unclear. But they made an attempt to push in and secure this windbreak, this tree line. I've updated my map here a bit for Khyvkya. This does appear to be a more accurate estimate of what Russia is in control of in town, with contested areas along the outskirts here. You have a forestry, whatever, over here that you may have some Ukrainians operating in. And then it's a bit unclear if Russia is in control of this small valley down here as well. We know that Andriivka is under Ukrainian control because Russia is bombing Andriivka at the moment. Claims that Ukraine is attacking Oleksivka. That is why I've highlighted it as unknown. Moving over, Yublanivka, this is the area where Ukraine assaulted. The tanks moved up along this road, moved here to utilize cover, came around the corner and started blasting along the tree line into Russian positions. If that has had any effect, if Ukraine has been able to push on, unclear. Maybe it was just an attempt to thin the numbers of Russians that were gathering for a push into these windbreaks. Not unthinkable. So yeah, Yunakivka, it does appear as if Russia has... we know from Russian sources that they have pushed into Yunakivka and they are struggling to push further. The battle in Yunakivka at the moment appears to be a stalemate. And Russia appears to have pushed down to this main road leading straight through town. And that is the extent of their advance into Yunakivka, with Ukraine holding the southern end of this main road here and Russia being in control of the northern part of town. And then a bit further east, Russia pushed into this valley with these forests, and now Ukraine appears to have pushed back north, and this area here is where Russia is shelling with rockets to contain the Ukrainians and deny them a chance to move forward. As you can see, it's not all that easy for Ukraine to push forward. It's not that much in the shape of cover if you push further north. So question is if Ukraine could have pushed further north into this part of the valley, even if they wanted to. I mean, they more than likely pushed through here, secured territory, and then paused, as it were, to gather forces for a further another push north, and would be my guess. But anyway, Russia is countering the Ukrainian presence with rockets here. So Ukraine keeps advancing in Sumy is what I'm trying to get at, I guess. So the other day they took Andriivka, they made moves on Oleksivka. Russia has been halted in Yunakivka. There's a tank assault towards the south of Yablunivka. Ukraine pushed across the fields from this fortified position into the tree line here, securing territory north of Khyvkya. Let's see if they can utilize that to push in to these windbreaks here, these forests, to reach the outskirts of town. And yeah, like we have said, Ukraine has pushed north into this forest. So at the moment, initiative has shifted into favor for the Ukrainians. Ukraine is pushing, advancing, and forcing Russia to fall back ever so slightly. We're not talking massive advances, absolutely not. But nonetheless, the situation is what it is. Also interesting that Ukraine keeps relying on Air Force, its Air Force, to conduct strikes within Russia, as it were, indicating that there might be something to it, what the Russian sources are saying, or how they perceive the situation, that the Ukrainians are flying as if they have air supremacy, air superiority in the area. I'm thinking that might be a bit too much. I think at best, at minimum, really, they have air parity. They can, if they have the Saab aircraft operational, I think that's still an unknown. But if the Saab aircraft are flying around the early warning and control aircraft, they can monitor where Russian fighter jets are, where Russian interceptors are, and that allows Ukrainian fighters to sneak in and drop payloads when there's a gap, when there's an opportunity, when the Russians are, moving away or switching between flight wings and what have you. Then they can sneak in, drop bombs, and move out, as they know exactly where all the Russian fighters are located. So I think air parity is Ukraine has established air parity along the border here between Sumy and Kursk. That would be Sumy Oblast and Tetkino. Heading over to Andrew again. Not that much is happening as well. Russia is slowly advancing, as always. It's kind of funny. Avatnik took issue with my statements on the Russian advance, and he made a claim that the Russians, they have sped up the advance. They are accelerating the advance westward here south of Pokrovsk. So we did some math and came to the conclusion that in 2025 Russia is advancing 166 meters per day in this area here south of Pokrovsk. That is the massive acceleration the Vatniks are talking about. The massive advance of the Russians. 166 meters per day on average, one should add. Quite clearly, let's go back here. If we can find... Okay, as we can see here, what's happening here, this is not 166 meters, but the average is. So Russia can make some advances, and then everything dies out or slows down, and a week or so later they make another advance. And if you take a look at what's happening over time, the average is, as of now, 166 meters per day. That is the speed of Russia's advance south of Pokrovsk. So, I joke that Germany invented blitzkrieg, lightning war, and now Russia has invented Schneckenkrieg, snail war. The exact opposite of blitzkrieg. And I mean, it's such a slow crawl. Jesus, I'm going to return to this area though, because Russia is advancing here and there. Has to be said, they're pushing out to the river here and towards Shakova, where all those vital bridges are located. But we're gonna come back to this area. I'm gonna highlight another area here, namely Kupyansk, because Russia has made a significant advance the other day, and that is this push, and it is confirmed by several sources at this point. Pushing through these woods here to reach Hulubivka, and now they are really close to Kupyansk itself, coming down this way. If we move over to Mayakovsk 73 and take a look at the same area here, you can see how the Russians have moved through forests, through Hulubivka, and he even has the Russians on the outskirts of Radkivka. A bit unclear, but it's safe to say that they are in Hulubivka at least, right? I think everyone can agree on that. The question is, have they moved out here? Who knows? But either way, they are damn close to Kupyansk itself, right? That said, this is on the same level where at their most furthest advance to the east of the Oskil. Remember, they pushed down into these forests, and then there was a small village. Where was it? Where the hell is that small village? Sinkivka, yeah. They still haven't taken it, Jesus. They launched one assault after the other through the woods here, down towards Sinkivka, and right here we saw some extraordinary video footage of Russians just getting schwacked by Ukrainian fire, missiles and drones and artillery and what have you. A complete massacre, and the Russians just did it over and over, and eventually they gave up on Sinkivka and started pushing down into forest instead, and then since then they have been forced back, but now they're back on roughly the same level. The difference is now they are on the right side of the river, so to speak, to reach Kupyansk. There is no river barrier, there are no bridges they need to deal with, and they don't have to fight their way through hellscape that is urban warfare through industrial zones that we see here on the eastern side of the Oskil next to Kupyansk. Now they can push through forests and push straight into town itself if they do get that far. And so this, I feel that this is an issue. Russia, since the Russians are, they're tasting blood. They're feeling that they're advancing. They feel that they have victory close at hand in this part of the battlefield or the front line. I'm thinking they are gonna go all in at this point to reach Kupyansk due to this successful advance here. Had the Ukrainians managed to push them back from Kindrashivka once more, things would more than likely be different. But since Russia managed to push into Kindrashivka, a week or so later they managed to push down into Hulubivka, and now they are in a position to gather forces and mount a large assault straight for Kupyansk. We'll see if it plays out in that way. But I'm thinking that Russia is going to go for broke and try and reach the northern outskirts of Kupyansk during the week. So we'll see what happens here. I'm going to highlight another thing because Andrew Perpetua made a very interesting observation since this is the area where we have seen a lot of Ukrainian advances of late. And Andrew Perpetua, why don't we use his map since we're talking about him, has noted when he's watching all the footage from the combat in this area that the Russians, there's very few Russians in each defensive position. And this is also an area where Ukraine has been steadily advancing. Seems to indicate that Russia has manpower issues in this part of the battlefield or part of the front line, and this is allowing Ukraine to slowly advance towards this valley and the village of Lozova. So, is this an area where Russia does have manpower issues, right? Is Russia having manpower issues along a section of the front line? Isn't that interesting? If that is the case. Yes, they're advancing here, and I'm worried about this, absolutely. They're gaining territory every now and then down here, yes, sure as hell. But Ukraine is advancing down here because Russia is not properly manning their trench lines. Why is that? Is it negligence, or is it incompetence, or is Russia beginning to feel the effects of losing 400,000 troops in 1 year in 2024 and having lost 200,000 so far in 2025? Dead and wounded, Vatniks. We're not talking dead only. Dead and wounded. So like 10% of those numbers are dead and the rest are wounded in some shape, form, or fashion. Okay? And most of them can come back after a month to fight again. So don't, unloosen your sphincters or whatever. But yeah, so it still is an interesting observation by Andrew here. That Russia appears to be struggling with manning their defensive lines in this area properly. Might be an indication that Russia is having manpower issues overall, or maybe it's just local commanders being crap. That is very much a possibility as well, since we're talking about the Russian army. Now we're gonna go back down here to Myrnorod and Pokrovsk and the surrounding area, and because god damn it, 166 meters on average per day is Russia's advance in 2025. Right, so 166 meters per day. That is this area. This circle is Pokrovsk. So in 2025, the gains south of Pokrovsk equal roughly 166 meters per day. I mean, an incredibly slow advance. I'm not calling it Schneckenkrieg for nothing. And the thing is, Russia has so far, yes, they've taken Toretsk, but I mean, or Toretsk, yeah, Toretsk is over here, sorry. Brain fart, this is Toretsk. They've taken Toretsk, but they've hardly pushed past it, right? They've pushed into Toretsk, but they haven't left Toretsk. They've only now started to push out from the city, and they've taken territory outside of it, surrounding it, pushing up here in the middle. But they haven't really met any of the large, really large obstacles, like this urban fortress located here, where you have like 3 major cities and 6 to 8 larger towns that are all interconnected into a massive barrier of concrete and steel and bricks. Right? They haven't reached this massive obstacle yet. They haven't pushed into Pokrovsk or Mirnorad yet. They're right outside of these cities, and they haven't pushed into them yet. Here you have a river that they're trying to push out to with Shakova and all those bridges. But take a look what follows that river. Fortifications all along the river. They haven't reached this fortified river yet. And behind all of these difficult obstacles, you have this freshly built Ukrainian defensive line that, according to what's being said, is very formidable. I guess we'll find out in a year or two when Russia reaches it. And that's what I want to get to. This is where Russia has been advancing primarily, moving something like 60 kilometers in 2 years from Avdiivka to the locations out here south of Pokrovsk. 60 kilometers. So in September of 2023, Russia began the assault, the proper assault on Avdiivka in September. So at the end of summer this year, it's going to be 2 years of constant grinding to push the front line forward. So they went from Avdiivka to Ocheretune, and directly after Ocheretune, they started moving towards Pokrovsk. So 2 years. And that is this area we're talking about here. You can see the Russian front line here, or a defensive line, highlighted by the white dots. So this area here is what Russia has secured in 2 years. Yes, they've pushed out somewhat over here between Kupyansk and Lyman as well, but it's, as you can see, it's not that impressive, their gains up here. And on top of that, Ukraine is pushing back in the middle because Russia appears to be low on manpower in this part of the front line, at least. And then you have Sumy, where Ukraine first pushed in. You can see the defenses Russia built. They were worried about that incursion. Ukraine pushed in, caused a lot of damage, a lot of ruckus, forced Russia to allocate at minimum at this point 150,000 troops guaranteed to the Kursk area that are now pushing into Sumy. But like we said, in Sumy, Ukraine is now pushing back, inflicting massive casualties on the Russians. So what are we looking at? This is what we're looking at, really, in 2 years' time for the Russians. This is the entirety of Ukraine, right? And this is the entirety of Ukraine as well, by the way, if anyone's wondering. So this is what Russia has achieved in 2 years. 1% of Ukraine in total. And they are grinding through, not all that, basic defensive lines. No offense to the Ukrainians, but we're talking foxholes, we're talking trenches, barbed wire, minefields, stuff like that. Standard defensive lines. They have not yet tried to push into a massive city like Pokrovsk and Myrnora, these twin cities. They have not yet reached this massive urban belt that will completely shut everything down for Russians if they do try and push in here. They haven't tried to cross this fortified river, and they have not yet reached this impressive defensive line that Ukraine has built some ways behind the point of contact here. Right? So this area, if Russia decides to keep fighting down here, I mean, what the hell? They've lost in 2024. They lost 400,000 troops trying to push through here, basically. And in 2024, they secured 0.5% of Ukrainian territory as they pushed through here. And they haven't reached the major obstacles yet. They took a real kick to the teeth in Toretsk and the surrounding towns, absolutely. But then they're gonna have to redo all of that here in 3 more cities, vastly larger than Toretsk, combined with all the towns that connect these cities. And yeah, like I said, the fortified river, Pokrovsk and Myrnorad and stuff like that. And Russia is currently advancing 166 meters per day, pushing through here, south of Pokrovsk. Where the hell am I going with it? Yes, the moment Russia decides to enter Pokrovsk, or if they do intend to enter what's the city's name? I've forgotten. Is it Konstantinivka? I've forgotten. The city here at the edge of this urban belt. That will require so much resources from the Russians pushing into these urban centers that all other advances will come to a halt. Remember when they fought in Bakhmut? That cost Russia 80,000 casualties, dead and wounded, according to Russian sources. And Pokrovsk and Myrnorad combined, it's a larger urban center than Bakhmut. And this belt here is sure as hell larger than Bakhmut. And if Russia advances only 0.5% per year, while staying away from urban centers, what happens when they push into Pokrovsk or the urban areas here? Everything will slow down. There won't be an advance anywhere else because they will have to just push and push manpower and meat into the meat grinder, trying to enter and advance into these towns and cities. 1% right here. That is what Russia has achieved between September of 2023 and in a couple of months, September of 2025. Meanwhile, Ukraine is advancing here ever so slightly. Nothing major, absolutely, but still they are. And here in Sumy, it does appear as if Russia walked into a massive trap when they followed the Ukrainian army into prepared kill zones, prepared kill boxes, an area where Ukraine has air parity and where they have pre-sighted every square inch for artillery strikes. And of course, Ukraine has also launched a new incursion into Russia over at Tetkino. So yeah, I mean, the Russians aren't gaining anything, basically. I'm rambling. I don't know what the point of the rant is anymore. They took something like, 25%, 30% in the first 2 to 3 weeks of the war. And then they got pushed back to this line in 2022. Right? So after those first 2-3 weeks, what has Russia achieved? They've secured 1%. And since then they've been invaded. Ukraine has launched a sneaky drone strike all across Russia, taking out a third of Russia's bomber fleet, and the Black Sea Fleet had to leave Sevastopol because Ukrainian missiles could attack at will without Russian air defenses being able to shoot down those missiles. I mean, this is a complete disaster. I think that is what my point was going to be, a complete disaster for the Russians. The moment they decide to push into one of these urban areas, the 166 meters will drop to, I don't know, 80, 40 meters per day, maybe, if even that. So yeah, well, I think we're closing in on 30 minutes here, and I'm rambling, and I'm not sure what the point was of this rant, other than Russia is moving extremely slow, and they haven't even begun to enter some proper difficult territory to attack, like this fortified river and these urban centers up here, and Pokrovsk and Mironrad, or even this defensive line over here. They're close down here, so maybe we'll see Russia trying this new defensive line eventually in a couple of days, a couple of weeks, if they're pushing up this way. But that's the 30-minute mark, if I'm not mistaken. So I've been talking for 11 minutes. Jesus. Yeah. Weird rant, and no, not sure what I wanted to point out with it. So yeah, that's gonna have to be it. So yeah, we need to keep an eye on if Russia is indeed suffering from manpower issues, or if it's just local commanders being, incompetent. And also interesting that Ukraine, the trap in Sumy Oblast is working as intended, as it seems. And we'll see what Russia does with advancing down in Pokrovsk. I mean, it seems insane of Russia to advance in that location, knowing that they take so many casualties, knowing that the advance is so slow, and they haven't yet even tried to test the proper defensive lines in the area. So yeah, well, it is what it is. As always, go på marsch, Ukraine, and give them hell.
Yeah. Still storm rains among the drones, venomous glare. Boots sink deep in the mud, despair thick in the air. Rat-tat-tat, AK bucks, they never relent. Each second lasts a lifetime. In the chaos we descend. Barbed wire cuts the land with rust and decay. Every heartbeat a beat closer to your last day. Grenades kiss the earth, dirt flies, ash replace the sky. Heroes crouch low, tears drip, still they ready to die. Heroes knees buckle, but they hold the line. Fear burns in their eyes, but in hell they intend to dine. Thunder cracks aloud, men covered by bloody stain. Mud hugs their clothes, kissed by the glory of Ukraine. Murdering mixed with pain, screams echo across the land. Souls tethered, the rifles gripping fear with both hands. Enemies flood like a never-ending tide. A ballad of the brave where heroes won't hide. Huddling shadows, a friend falls, no soft goodbye. Crimson rivers carved past, streams crushed neath the sky. Prince of luxury, foster lips a silent hymn. Where survival clings and the light grows dim. Heroes knees buckle, but they hold the line. Fear burns in their eyes, but in hell they intend to dine. Thunder cracks aloud, men covered by bloody stain. Mud hugs their clothes, kissed by the glory of Ukraine. Cuts the land with rust and decay. Every heartbeat a beat closer to your last day. Grenades kiss the earth, dirt flies, ash replace the sky. Heroes crouch low, tears drip, still they ready to die. Heroes knees buckle, but they hold the line. Fear burns in their eyes, but in hell they intend to dine. Thunder cracks aloud, men covered by bloody stain. Mud hugs their clothes, kissed by the glory of Ukraine. Rifling through shrapnel, a voice calls out, afraid and lost. From foxholes to freedom, the struggle is worth the cost. A mother's prayer lost in artillery's roar. Heroes crumble, tears flood their core. Heroes knees buckle, but they hold the line. Fear burns in their eyes, but in hell they intend to dine. Thunder cracks aloud, men covered by bloody stain. Mud hugs their clothes, kissed by the glory of Ukraine. Rain drowns the cries of 1,000 worn souls. Each drop's a whisper, the earth swallows the tolls. Ash on uniforms, patches soaked in grief. Soldiers' hearts stitched with threads of belief. Shells burst, earthquakes, the devil's serenade. Enemies come crashing like an endless cascade. Smog through the mire, hearts pumping propane. Rain and sorrow mix, warriors' pain. Heroes knees buckle, but they hold the line. Fear burns in their eyes, but in hell they intend to dine. Thunder cracks aloud, men covered by bloody stain. Mud hugs their clothes, kissed by the glory of Ukraine.